This bill specifically excludes children. It only deals with competent adults. Now, you're a paediatrician, and you seem to be arguing that it may actually apply to children. That seems a rather alarmist position to take.
Well, there's a very strong move in our society to recognise the rights of children to exercise their own autonomy, particularly in adolescence. And already there have been shifts in medical law in this country which allow adolescents of 13 and 14 or 15 who the doctor recognises are competent to make medical decisions about themselves, even against their parents' wishes.
Now, there is no suggestion that this bill will have any application for the newborn.
Well, again, in this current bill, it's quite clear that the bill is concentrating on adults. And yet the argument about the possibility that mercy killing of newborn babies is already there under the surface. And as we look across to Holland now, we see that the regularisation of medical killing of newborn babies has now been accepted by the Dutch medical profession. So the trend of starting with adult suicide and mercy killing and then extending to other groups has been clearly documented in Holland. So I and many of my colleagues as paediatricians see the potential for the slippery slope extending to other vulnerable age groups, and particularly newborn babies who are unwanted and who may have evidence of significant brain injury or other problems are vulnerable groups who increasing pressure will come to extend mercy killing. So once you allow the principle that doctors, that a life may be not worth living and that doctors have a duty to assist in the ending of that life, then it's very difficult to see how you prevent this creep into other areas, and paediatrics is an obvious area where it may come in the future.
So what you seem to be arguing is that if Lord Joffe's bill does get the green light, in time it would extend to a position where 13, even 12-year-olds might request assisted dying even if their parents very clearly don't want that for them.
Yes, it's quite clear, I think, that Lord Joffe and others see this as the first stage of a general extension of the principle of autonomy to suicide, to medically assisted suicide. So I think it is inevitable, it seems to me, that one can see this trend, which is already happening in other countries, will happen in the UK, this extension, this gradual erosion towards younger and younger age groups.
In your own experience, are there instances you can think of where that kind of pressure would have applied if the law had allowed it?
Certainly I can think of examples myself where I've been caring for babies with profound injuries and where there is a sense of pressure. Particularly there are economic arguments that say, could a child survive that's going to be a burden on their family or a burden on society, and what about the costs of caring for this child? So that the prohibition against killing and the fact that if I or any of my colleagues were actually to end the life of a baby, we would be guilty, in current law, we would be guilty of the crime of intentional killing or murder, which carries a statutory life imprisonment. So the prohibition of intentional killing stands at the moment as a very strong edifice against the possibility of taking these vulnerable lives. But once you start to erode that concept, once you bring in the concept that doctors may end lives or assist in the ending of lives that are perceived to be worthless, then it does seem to me that the slippery slope is really on us.
You're a board member of the Centre for Bioethics and Public Policy, and in that position you argue that this bill would jeopardise the integrity of doctors, don't you?
Yes, medicine is a very unique profession. It's a profession which goes back for 2,000 years in Western society, all the way back to Hippocrates. And doctors differentiated themselves from other forms of healers in society, including the medicine man, who you can still find in some African villages and so on. The medicine man has great expertise in the use of herbs, but he may use that expertise either to heal, but he may also use his expertise to kill or to poison. He's well known to be an expert in poisoning. And therefore the medicine man is someone you don't really trust, is a figure of fear because of their knowledge and their power. The genius of the Hippocratic doctors, going all the way back to ancient Greece, was that they differentiated themselves from the medicine man. The Hippocratic doctors took this solemn oath that they would only use their skill, their expertise, for healing and never for harm. And in fact, the specific Hippocratic Oath, which doctors have taken for 2,000 years, says, I will not give poison to anyone, though asked to do so, nor will I suggest such a plan. So I see that there is what is happening today is that Lord Joffe's bill is suggesting to toss away, almost in a casual way, 2,000 years of a tradition that doctors would only be dedicated themselves to healing. This is why doctors are not involved as active combatants in warfare. This is why doctors are not involved in lethal executions. This is why doctors are not involved in examining prisoners to see if they can be tortured. Doctors have always said that we are committed only to healing, but never to use our skill to harm or to kill.
In the end, it comes down to patient choice. You're not harming people who have no choice in this. They are people who want to die.
Well, of course, people have the right to kill themselves. It's possible for somebody, and tragically people do. But the question is, why should doctors, of any people in society, be involved in helping people to kill themselves? The unique thing about the medical profession is that for 2,000 years they've been committed to not to kill. I mean, even in ancient Greece, people would ask for poisons. It's not new that people want to die, but the doctors have always said, we are not in the business of killing people. We're not in the business of giving lethal doses of medicine. We are here to use our skill solely for good, to heal, but never to harm.
But the reality is that terminally ill people often don't have the ability to kill themselves. They are within the power of the doctors, and they need doctors to assist their dying.
It's precisely that power imbalance that makes this bill so dangerous. Doctors have huge power. They have power in the way that they give information to patients. They can, it's possible for doctors to manipulate and so on. So yes, there are a very small number of people who desperately want to die, but there's a much larger group of vulnerable people who this prohibition against killing protects them, protects their autonomy. And so I think I and my colleagues strongly feel that in order to protect the vulnerable, we must maintain our historic commitment. I am there to help you, but I will never use my skill to kill you, even if you ask me.